Okay, so if I was looking at a problem like number 13, here's what I would do. There's a 1/2 there. I can deal with the 1/2 if I want to, but this is also an equation. So I can take this entire equation and multiply both sides by 2. And that's especially helpful because 0 times 2 is 0, but I'm just going to distribute this 2 to each term. So 2 times 1/2 is just 1x squared. 2 times x is 2x minus 20, and 0 times 2 is 0. So I like doing that because now I don't have to deal with the 1/2. I can just let a equal 1, b be 2, and c be a negative 20. So I'm going to do the quadratic formula. X equals negative b, which is negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4, minus 4, times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 20. And then all of that is divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 1, which is 2. So underneath the square root, negative 2 plus or minus the square root of. So notice there's a negative and a negative. So that's going to make this 4 plus a negative times a negative. So it becomes plus. 4 times 20 is 80. So 4 plus 80 is 84, all divided by 2. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 84 divided by 2. Now, if we were going to find the exact answer, then I would try and simplify 84. So I would see, if I can simplify the square root of 84 using the radicals that we did last section. I believe that your book asks you, or what am I assigning you? IXLs. So I'm assigning you IXLs, and I'm pretty sure they have you do decimals. So we're going to get a decimal for the square root of 84. So the square root of 84 is 9.165. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up 2 separate equations. I've got negative 2 plus this 9.165 divided by 2, and I've got negative 2 minus 9.165 divided by 2. So negative 2 plus that is 7.165 divided by 2 is 3.58. And then negative 2 minus 9.165 divided by 2 ends up being negative 5.58. So let's, just in case they ask you for the exact answer, which I don't think they do, if I take negative 2 plus or minus root 84 divided by 2, and I want the exact answer. Well, 84 is 4 times 21. So the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 21 is root 21. So negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 21 divided by 2. And because all 3 of these can be simplified, I would make it negative 1 plus or minus root 21. There's no need to put over 1. So if you took negative 1 plus the square root of 21 and negative 1 minus the square root of 21, you'd get the same answers. I think they ask you to round, so that would be rounded. Number 14 says 4x squared minus 4x equals negative 1. So notice, before I label A, B, and C, notice that the constant is on the other side of the equal sign. I'm going to set this equal to 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 1. So 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. So I'm going to use a positive 4 for A, a negative 4 for B, and a positive 1 for C. So pause the video, see how far you can get in terms of finding your answer. And then unpause the video when you want to see my work. So x equals the opposite of negative 4, which is 4, plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared, which is 16, minus 4 times A times c is 4 times 4 times 1, which is 16, all over 2 times 4, which is 8. So 4 plus or minus the square root of 0 over 8. So the square root of 0 is 0. And so I can think of this as two separate equations if I want to, but 4 plus 0 and 4 minus 0 are both 4. And 4 over 8 is just 1/2. So there's no need to write it twice. Remember, sometimes there's two answers, sometimes there's one answer, sometimes there's no answers. So this only has one answer. If I were to graph number 14, the only place where it would cross the x-axis is at positive 1/2. So number 14 just has one answer, positive 1/2. Let me check my time here. Oh, we'll put this one in this video too. Number 15 is x squared plus 7x plus 16 equals 0. So pause the video, try this problem, and then unpause the video when you're ready to go over it. So a is 1, b is 7. Okay, why isn't it working? And c is 16. So I'm going to do x equals negative b, which is negative 7, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 49, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 16. So when I take 4 times 16, I get 64, all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 64 is a negative number. So if you're trying to take the square root of a negative number, that's not possible. There is no solution. If I were to graph number 15, it would not cross the x-axis. There is no solution. So there can be two solutions, one solution, or no solution. And if you're ever trying to take the square root of a negative number, there is no solution.